What up, guys? Welcome to the Just Pearly Things YouTube channel. Today, I am going to be continuing my series of investigating the court system in the UK. And today, I have a special guest. Introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, my name is Farouk. I'm from London, England, going through the family court system. I've got a small channel, can I mention it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've started a channel called Disqualified Dads, trying to expose and highlight the family court system and the horrors that go on basically behind the scenes that no one is aware of, ultimately.
Okay, so your channel's called Disqualified Dads. Is that an organization too, or is it just a channel?
It's a channel slash organisation because I've used the little knowledge I have and the little traction that I've had to help join other fathers groups together. So it was a small platform, but hopefully it'll have a big impact. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay, so what is your experience with the court system in the UK?
Right, I'll try and frame this in a way where I can explain how I've seen it. So I'm 41 years old. I have met and worked with a lot of people. I've gone through separation and divorce, and obviously men don't get a great deal, but you don't understand the full horrors of it until you enter the system. So I work with guys who are going through divorce, and I'm like, listen mate, just get through the day, let's get the job done, you'll be all right. But you have no understanding of the horror that they're going through, especially if they're going through courts. Now, once I entered the court system myself, basically March the 16th, I ended my relationship for various reasons, multiple of issues and whatnot.
You said March 16th?
2022, sorry.
Okay,
yeah.
so 2022 you ended your relationship, and that was a marriage?
That was just it wasn't a civil marriage. It was more just an Islamic registry, but we were married religiously from a religious perspective.
Okay, so it was not a legal marriage.
It was not a legal marriage,
but it was a religious ceremony.
Yeah.
Okay, and so in 2022 you ended it.
Yeah, so 16th of March 2022, for multiple issues and reasons, I ended it after 10 years. That is just to highlight. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, following that day, it's like I remember that day clearly. So March the 16th, wrapped it up. That same evening, I'm arrested and taken to a police cell for 24 hours. Historic allegations of every type of abuse you can imagine.
The same day?
Yeah, the same day.
So did she see it coming then, or was that just the initial?
Yeah, this is the other thing. And because of what I now know after getting into the system, everyone I speak to, the blueprint is the same. You're arrested. They go to either a women's refuge or the specific women's group. After that, they secure legal aid. And then after that, you are systematically dismantled. Now, the thing is, every father that I speak to now, and we're going into the hundreds of fathers now, yeah, the same blueprint. It's like they knew exactly what moves to pull, what to do, how to do it, and before you know it, you're homeless. You're literally just thrown out onto the streets. You can't tell anyone. You've got a court order against you, which is a non-molestation order, and you're just literally left out to just survive on your own, even if you have nowhere to go, literally. So basically, March 16th, I end it. I'm arrested.
And did she, did she go to a women's group that day? Or
no,
had she been there before?
No, okay, let me go into this now, because
Okay,
I know this in detail. What happens is, when they know there's tension in the air, what happens is you go to the doctor or you speak to your friend circle. Someone knows someone already knows the blueprint. So they say, go to the doctor, you put on the tears, you say you're depressed, you're being abused. And now with the law around coercive control, which is come into law, which could mean anything. Coercive control could mean absolutely anything. So they go to doctors, or the other one is when they drop in the kids to school and back, you go to school and back, you put on the tears in front of the teachers, in front of some authority.
Okay.
They then refer you to the relevant women's aid groups. So either the doctors or the school teachers or something like that, they refer you to these people. Okay. When you go to these, I don't know if I can say it, the women's aid group or whatever it is, they will map out the blueprint for you. And when I say they map it out in detail, they will look at your background. So for example, if you're a Muslim man, yeah, they will say, you need to, this is what's happening in the family court, so specifically against, say, Muslim men. I'll give you an example. They say, right, give us your history, you've got a few problems, you've had some arguments. Firstly, they say you need to demonstrate there was a threat of he was going to kill me, there's a threat to your life. So they say, for argument's sake, the coercive control card, they'll say, 5 years ago you had an argument about the colour of the wallpaper. You disagreed with her, that's coercive control. Then they say, add to that card, you threatened to kill you afterwards, for example, after the argument. That's danger, coercive control. They have this blueprint.
So how do they do that if there's no evidence that he did that?
In the family court, you don't need any evidence. That's
so
the
she
thing.
can just say that we disagreed on the wallpaper and he abused me after, and she doesn't need any witnesses, nothing.
This is the madness of it all.
Okay.
The madness of the law, and the way I've seen the coercive control argument is, if you're a man and you disagreed, that's coercive control.
Wow.
This is what people understand. When I say the horrors, people have no idea. So when you're standing there thinking, hold on, the grown-ups are going to get involved, they're going to sort it out, I'll have access to my kids, they'll tell her that I didn't do anything, it was a normal, healthy argument. But they don't do that. The family courts pander to that behaviour. And this is not one case, these are thousands of cases. We could have a queue of 1,000 men out here just like that, yeah? And when I say what happens, so they go to this women's aid group, and what they then say is, right, you're from a Muslim background. Right, you need to say your husband's a little bit extreme. He's from an Indian background. He's got backward view on women. He looks down on women. So you've got the honour card and the extremist card, they call it, the religious card. The other, for example, if you're from a military background, they say, right, you need to add to that he suffers from PTSD. And he's seen a lot of action, so hence he's unpredictable.
They have so many cases, they know which words are going to work in court.
Exactly. They have a case where if he's an Englishman, they turn around and say he likes to get drunk after football. If he's in a bad mood, then he attacks. They have a narrative for every single scenario, background, culture you can imagine. It can be weaponized within the family court.
And the women's groups, those are the ones that are pushing this. So, like, say for you, hypothetically, you guys were having problems. She maybe saw it coming, and then she went to either someone knew something.
No, so this is what I'm saying. We had problems, but the blueprint, my blueprint was laid out from years ago. Because when men are in these relationships, you go to work, you come home, you sort of got your kids, you know things ain't great, but you'll soldier on for your kids. And just for the record, I would have soldiered on till the end for my children. But because the control element started affecting my children, I had to take a stand for them.
So what would they say for a Nigerian guy?
Classic cultural card, straight away. He's Nigerian, looks down on women, you know, the whole, he believes in having 3 wives, and in Nigeria they're allowed to hit. There is any card you can imagine, right? Because you've got to understand, women's aid effectively, they leverage the family court. They train up the CAFCAS, social service officers that go and interview the parents in these cases. They leverage child maintenance.
They train who?
Right, so you've got an organisation called CAFCAS, yeah? I know we're getting all over. I'll try and bring it all in.
I'm trying to understand, like, the
mechanics of it.
Yeah, so, because I'm trying to understand the system. Just, that's still recording, so he'll just replace that. So, first, they go to a doctor.
Go to your GP, you put on the tears, and you tell them you're depressed and all of that sort of thing.
Okay, so that's step 1.
And the doctor can refer you also to the women's aid group for support.
Women's aid, okay.
So when they go to the women's aid group, women's aid have a blueprint of how to secure the children, secure the finances, and basically come out fully on top.
Okay.
And they give them the full blueprint.
Finances, okay. So they first go to a GP and a lawyer, then they go to a
lawyer, just to the GP.
Or a teacher.
Or teacher, or someone of authority who can then refer them to say, this woman's in danger, she can't speak out, we need to refer her to women's aid,
Okay. Then they go to...
Women's aid, yes. Women's aid give you the blueprint. They say, right, what allegations are you going to make X, Y, and Z? And then when the individual is ready, they can pull the trigger, call the police. Because once you call the police, you've now got it on record, husband or boyfriend gets taken away.
Okay.
And once you've done that, that's on record, that secures legal aid.
Okay.
That's the other thing. So you have to do that to secure legal aid.
Okay.
So if they made those allegations, because in 2013, the legal aid mandate in this country changed. So they weren't just going to hand it out just like that, unless you were a victim of abuse. So straight away, that year, 2013, just in Birmingham alone, they said domestic abuse, these sort of abuse allegations went up by 200%,
Wow.
Funny that, innit? So as soon as they change the legal aid mandate,
200%.
just in Birmingham alone, yeah.
Okay.
So imagine across the country,
Right.
it's a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But legal aid, like I said, mandate came in, abuse allegations went through the roof.
Mm.
And you need legal aid to then secure everything else. And the government are sponsoring that effectively through legal aid.
Okay, so then they get legal aid. What's next? They take you to court.
Once there's legal aid, they don't take you to court. This is what they do. They apply for what you call, like in America, it would be called a restraining order. So it's like, here it's called a non-molestation order. The non-molestation orders, now let me tell you what evidence you need for that. Absolutely zero.
Zero evidence, okay.
You've made allegations, you've gone to the police, you write a statement of random allegations. You can literally say anything you want, or whatever the blueprint that you were given by the Women's Aid, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on your background, culture, whatever card they need to use, they can put it in there, yeah? That is submitted to the judge without your knowledge. One morning you wake up, you've got an email, a WhatsApp and a letter saying, you can't go to your home, you can't go within 100 meters of your home, you can't get in touch with her, you can't call her.
So the men have no heads up until this.
You have no, let me tell you.
I'm writing this down.
Let me tell you something. When I say you have no, you are knocked for six from pillar to post. You have no idea. So you've just broken up. Imagine this. You've just broken up. Yeah. Depending on the sort of relationship you've had, the kids are 90% of the times with the mother or with the missus basically. Yeah. 90% of non-resident parents in this country are men. Non-resident parents. 10% only are women. Yeah. So the chances are she's either going to leave the house, go to her mum's or friends or relatives anyway, yeah? So you've already lost a bit of contact there. What happens at that point is once the non-molestation order comes in, even it says on the non-molestation order, you can make contact to have access to your children. But if the mother at any point says, oh, he's victimizing me or I'm scared, police will come and get you, lock you up, no questions asked. You are walking on edge, literally. And this order is served without any notice.
And no evidence either.
No evidence.
And so you could go to jail. She could just say, oh, he beat me with no evidence, and you could go to jail. No, you don't go to jail. So they've served this order on you. If she says that she feels threatened or harassed, even if you say upload pictures of your children on social media, mum complains to the court saying, oh, look, he's breached his order. I'm being stressed because he's done this. Police will come and get you. You have to close your social media, take your children's picture. That's how brutal it is, yeah? But if you overnight get told you can't go 100 meters within your home, effectively you've lost contact with your kids, you're potentially homeless and on the street. So you could be working and earning, you own a house, but you're literally homeless. So you have to manage and get by and just sofa surf and however you can. I personally lived in my van for many months. I still sofa surf a year in, I'm still doing that, yeah. But because once this order is served, what the court says, you've got 2 weeks normally to come back, put your case forward. Whether they'll either discharge it, they'll vary it, or they will extend it fully for a year. Now, 9 out of 10 times, they're handed out like sweets. So you go back after 2 weeks, you say, look, judge, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. Have you got any evidence? I have nothing. Like, you don't keep records of any arguments or anything. It's very hard to prove when no one was there. So ultimately, because you're a man, you're expected to manage yourself. Don't worry, we'll stamp it, and that's it, you're done. Potentially for 6 months to a year, you're out of your house. Wow.
So
what's that called? The restraining order? It's
non-molestation order, yeah.
Is that different than the restraining order?
That is a restraining order, but they call it non-molestation order. That's the full name.
Okay. And so you have essentially a restraining order, like, because typically if you don't, I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yes,
so after 2 weeks, if you have no evidence that you didn't do it, then, how would you, right, in a 10-year marriage? Then the judge will most likely extend it for a year.
Let me put it this way. From what I've seen and what I know and all the fathers I spoke to is you're basically going there just to say, for the judge to just stamp it and say, yeah, I'm extending it. They're giving out like sweets. Last year, they reckon 40,000 non-molestation orders were dished out.
Wow.
They are dished out like sweets. The threshold of evidence is so... This is what, when I say I talk about the brutality and the horror, people have no idea. This is what I'm saying. So you're now homeless, you've lost contact with your kids, you're emotionally all over the place, you've just split up with a long-term relationship. Now my situation, I ended it, but the hundreds of fathers that I speak to, even in my community, their wives ended it basically. They had no choice. So they've literally overnight lost contact, homeless, and you're just literally left out in the wilderness. And what happens is then the downhill spiral starts. So you're walking around, You're very emotionally charged. You ain't seen your kids. You don't know when you're going to see them. The emotions run high, up and down. Then you're on the streets. You start drinking, drugs, gambling. 10 men a day post-separation are committing suicide. It doesn't even make the mainstream news.
10 men a day are committing suicide.
Yes, they've averaged, studies and research that I've seen and looked into, they're saying they've averaged it 10 men a day. And the child maintenance, sorry, add to that, so after the non-molestation or 2-3 weeks in, you get child maintenance phone you up. If you work as in PAYE, like you work for a normal company, you're an employee, they have all your records of you, they know what you earn, everything straight away. So straight after that, the application goes in, right, yeah, for child maintenance. So you're already all over the place.
That's child support, right?
Child support, known in America as child support.
Okay.
They then phone you and they literally financially violate you. And if you don't pay whatever money they decide that you need to pay, they can take it straight out your account. So what happens then is you're already paying all the bills. This is the reality, is you're paying all the mortgage bills, all the stuff already for your house that you lived in. You are now homeless. Now you pay child maintenance on top of that. You're left with no money, so you can't even rent out an apartment or anything. And when you explain this to child maintenance, they do not want to know. Child maintenance are responsible. I just want to put this out there. They've now said for 1,000 male suicides a year. Child maintenance in this country are responsible, and there are organisations that are trying to take them to court now. That I'm working with.
1,000 male suicides a year from child support.
Child support, the harassment is the way you are treated, subhuman.
Can I just want to, so if a guy's making $5,000 a month, how much would he pay?
I think they average it on your annual earnings. So if you were earning, and this is before tax, just to clarify as well. So they calculate child maintenance before the tax is deducted. So if you were, say, earning £50,000, £15,000 is...
£50,000?
If you're earning £50,000 a year, so say you know, 50 grand a year, yeah? Out of that, the government will take their £15,000 tax, what do you call it? Yeah, inland revenue, they'll take their tax. But child support will calculate the percentage on the 50,000, not
before tax.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would say if you're earning £5,000 a month, I reckon you're looking at least, this, don't quote me on this, but at least 1,500 quid, I reckon.
Really?
Yeah.
15, wow.
£1,500, if not more, because 5,000, if you're consistently earning 5,000, that's a lot of money. I would say about £1,500 they can potentially come after you. And you're still paying all the other bills.
And so what?
And that's a good side, just to highlight. If you're taking home £5,000 a month, are you saying taking home or pre-tax?
No, just pre-tax.
Okay, so let's put that figure in reality. Yeah? After tax, that would be about maybe you're taking on 3,000 average, yeah? Now take £1,000, £1,500 out of that. What are you left with? You won't even pay you barely cover the mortgage of the house. And
would she, like, are you required to still pay for the house?
Yes, if it's in your name, mortgages, you still have to pay, because if it's in your name, if you don't pay for, look, if you've just separated and you've even had a joint mortgage, there's a risk of repossession, and your finances are invested in the property, so you have to keep paying.
Wait, so let me get this straight. She stays in the house.
Yes, she
gets. And she gets a restraining order against you, so you can't even get in the house that you pay for. And then on top of that, you have to give her $1,500 a month on the potential. It varies. That could be 1,000, could be 500,
could be more. Yeah.
Could be 2,000. We don't really know. It depends on the case. But on top of that, you have to give him 1,000 or her $1,500 a month.
If you're paying all the bills, let's say.
So how would you not get homeless then? Because it's like, how could you keep?
This is what I'm saying. People have not. When you try and plead with these people, the child maintenance, and this is now they've done a survey. When they talk to you, even the way they treat you and talk to you, and what people don't realise in this country, they presume child maintenance part of a government authority. Child maintenance, the CMS are an independent contractor to the government. They make money off a child. They made so many billions of child maintenance over the years, but people assume it's a government organisation. It's not. It's an independent contractor. And the child maintenance is also leveraged by Women's Aid. There's people that have done research, and they said child maintenance have a lot of leverage over, Women's Aid have a lot of leverage over child maintenance.
What do you mean leverage?
As in, the Women's Aid are so powerful as an organisation. Like I said, the social workers that work for the family courts here, that decide whether you have contact or not, they are trained up by Women's Aid. Yeah, so they leverage CAFCAS, which is the family court social services. Women's Aid leverage the family court. They have more leverage over CAFCAS, and they have leverage over child maintenance. And recently, over the last few months, there was a law that was going to be passed with that child maintenance will have enough powers to put electronic tags on non-paying fathers. Up until recently, and Matt O'Connor years ago highlighted in one of his interviews, child maintenance had the power to revoke your driving license and your passport at one point in this country. I remember hearing these things many, many years ago when I was a lot younger, but the horror of that never resonated until you end up here, and then you see the absolute horror of it.
So if you don't pay for child support, then you might get your passport taken, or
I don't know if that's still in place. That was years ago.
Okay.
They had powers to do that. What they can also go into your bank. What they can do now is they can go into your bank. They can get a court order, go into your bank accounts, out your savings. They can literally take money out.
Okay.
This is what I'm saying. When I say you are violated, like through litigation, when people talk about tyranny, horror, and oppression, I might look all right here physically, yeah. But when you sort of through litigation destroy a person, this is how they do it. I've seen how they do it, and we talk about demasculation. This is exactly how it's done. You have no fight left in you, hence the suicide rate. And child maintenance, like I said, through their harassment, 1,000 men a year just through child maintenance, dealing with child maintenance, are committing suicide. But you are destroyed. You are mentally, emotionally destroyed.
Because you've spent your whole life working to get to this point. And then you lost everything you own, pretty much.
You're not going to come back. In London, to say you're going to start again at 40, 45, 50 and go and buy a property, it's not going to happen. You're done.
Wow. You
are done. And the thing is this, even if you're not married legally, because they have the children, number one, right, if you have children and the key to all of this is the abuse allegations. Now look, there's a lot of genuine victims out there. I know people that have been to women's shelters. And 90% of these shelters, like obviously, look, there are genuine cases, and look, they need help and support, and they should have it, yeah. But I know men that have been to shelters to visit their kids, their children have told them stories. 90% of women in these shelters are there so they can get government housing, they can secure finances through the government, because the government will dish out money to those who have claimed abuse, especially female victims. So these shelters are full of women who are trying to get the council house. And to do that, you have to place the abuse card. And just to highlight something else, right, about child maintenance, you have to understand why the lost contact, why is there so many hurdles. Child maintenance services, and this is in their mandate, you can check this out. The less contact the father has, the more he pays. That is the key factor. You are rewarded for reducing contact. So even if, say, a mother thought, you know what, I'm not going to put my children through this. I want my children to have contact with their father. He can have overnight stays. As soon as he has overnight stays, she'll lose £200-400 out of that maintenance if father has overnight contact, yeah? So what's that going to encourage? They're going to think, well, I do want him to have contact, but I don't want to lose 400 quid, so forget it. Child mate, as long as you the system rewards loss of contact with children, society will gravitate towards that. It's as simple as.
So the child maintenance comes in, and if you don't pay that, they can go into your bank account and take it.
They can go into and they can take it straight out of your wages before it even goes through. They can take it from your employer. Employer
too. So then, sorry,
Cameron. Yeah.
So then next, you wait the year. Right, because the restraining order is a year. So, like, what happens when you get to court?
Right, okay. If you're lucky enough.
This is all before court, right?
Yeah, if you're lucky, no, you could go to court to represent yourself, but they could just stamp it off and say, right, you're done for a year. So then for a year, you have to live like this and just try not to breach the order. Now, I know a lot of guys who have just tried to make contact to get access to their children, because the order says you're allowed to make contact to see your children. But as soon as mother claims abuse, for some reason, police have enough resources to send people out and take you away, put you in 24 hours in the cell, yeah, for this.
So if you reach out to your kids during the year, she could say that you abused her.
Yeah, the key is this, you got to understand, if she's got the children, yeah, for you to see your children, you have to make, in some form or manner, you have to make contact with her, because she's got your children. If in that process she says, I didn't like the way he spoke to me, he was threatening, X, Y, Z, anything, or she goads you and you succumb to it, you'll be done, you're done. I know guys that just make contact, say, can I please see the children? That was enough. I spoke to one guy 2-3 weeks ago, and this is a well-to-do guy. He's a very successful businessman. He spent a week in prison. I'm talking 1 week in prison because she claimed harassment or something, and it was just a text message that said, look, please can I have the kids this weekend? Something along those lines. And when he went to the judge after a week, the judge looked at it and said, why did he go to prison? Who put him in? But this is the family court madness that people have no idea. Because what it is, you have this delusion that we're in a first world country. This is England. We have laws, orders, processes, procedures. You enter the system and you realize it's an absolute shambles.
So what happens?
After that.
So he reaches out to for the kids, and she'll either say he abused me, or I mean, she might let him. You don't know.
She might let him, but what happens is, for you to have meaningful contact, you then have to apply. No, sorry, this is where the next next situation.
Wait,
happens.
so why would he? I don't understand one thing. Why would he go to jail if legally he can reach out?
Because of female. The only logic I can assume is I'm not anti-women or anything like that, but as soon as a woman starts screaming and shouting abuse, as the society just turned on, you're done. You've got no chance. And it seems to be, this is what I'm saying, when I say family court matters, they seem to have so much leverage. I cannot understand why.
The women have so much leverage.
Yeah, and the courts seem to reward this, and I fully don't understand why. But this is the next stage, what happens in that year. So you've got no access to your children. Let's say you've got a molestation order against you. You've got no access to your children. So you then apply for what you call a court application to see your children. It's a C100 application.
Okay.
And this is where the scam fully starts. Now, I'll explain to you where the whole scam starts now. The whole thing is a scam. You are emotional, you're upset, you don't know what's going on, you've got this restraining order, you can't see your children. So you then go to see a solicitor. That's when the solicitors, the barristers, everyone around the whole family court machine, they are all in on it together. Because your solicitor will look at you, see how much value you have, how much estate you have, how much savings you have. As soon as you walked into that door, that solicitor knows that's £15,000 to £20,000 secure. He can't guarantee you anything. He cannot guarantee access to your children or nothing, but because you're emotional, you're upset, you have a primal urge to want to see your children. And that is exploited, because they will say to you, we need to do this, this, this and this. We need a £5,000 retainer. Literally, before you know it, you've handed over £15,000 to £20,000, but the lawyer and the barrister that you employ cannot do anything for you. And I know many cases, I spoke to fathers, their own barrister has said to them, accept the allegations on the order, just accept it, yeah? It won't make any difference. They've said that. Then, because they've done that on the advice of the barrister, they have had to fight the fact that they've accepted that order throughout the rest of their case. But they're saying, why did my barrister say that? Because when you accept the order, 10 minutes in and out, barrister's made us £2,000. And he's created you so many problems down the line that you're going to employ barristers for the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand it. So you go to the solicitor, and if you choose to fight the order, you spend $15,000 to $20,000.
Yeah, if you fight the order, the non-molestation order, and if you put an application in to see your children, you're looking at, like I said, £15,000 to £20,000 at least.
Okay, and typically that doesn't have a good outcome, right?
They cannot guarantee you nothing, and I'd go as far as saying the solicitors and barristers are in on it, because they also take, you got to understand, the solicitors, barristers that are representing you probably also take legal aid and represent the other side in many other cases. So when you go into court, from all the stuff, we're talking hundreds of fathers that we've spoken to now, what it turns out is you're a lamb to the slaughter. Because every stage of that family court machine costs money. They are literally there to fleece you. It generates so much money.
So, so this is even more crazy, because at this point you don't have your house, you're paying child support, and on top of that now you have to come up with £15,000 to £20,000 if you want to fight the order, or they just say you can't do anything and to accept the order. But that causes more problems down the line, because that now, I'm assuming that's a guilty plea.
That's basically saying you're guilty. But the point is this about that, is you're emotional, you're vulnerable, you're all over the place.
Right.
And you've got the solicitors and the barristers also taking advantage and fleecing you.
So, because I would be very I would be going nuts if someone just took...
That right there is where suicide comes. All of those stages I've explained, right? When we say it, it's one thing. When you live it and walk and talk it, live through these things, there are days where, as you spoke to many people, they've given up. They're broken. They're broken men. They've given up, and suicide does look like a very good option.
Yeah, because at that point, you're at what
destroyed.
age would you say this typically happens? 40s, 50s?
That it can happen at any. I know guys. I speak to guys in their 30s, guys in their 40s. But the older you are, the harder it is.
Yeah. So let's say you're in your 40s or 50s.
It's bad,
You've
yeah.
worked for 20 years.
Yeah.
You've gotten yourself to a certain point. Now this woman most of the time women leave. So more
Yes.
likely
Yeah.
than not, she leaves. And she files a restraining order, and now I'd imagine your reputation is ruined
Yes,
because
yes.
everyone.
Once the abuse card is planted on you,
Yeah.
even the community, even I know cases where it was so convincing, right? Some of these people look, like somebody, like in certain cases that I know of, there's an element of a personality disorder that they genuinely believe they are the victim. When you talk to these people, it is very hard not to believe. So you see a woman screaming and crying. Add to that, say from the community, you see a guy with a beard and a hat and say, oh, he's hitting me, he's abusing me, he's berating me, he's forcing me to wear a hijab and X, Y, and Z. It is very difficult not to believe.
And especially because the women's aid shelters have a whole storyline that I'd imagine. So like if you said you're a Muslim.
Yeah.
So like if I was in a Muslim community, I would be like, oh, that makes sense. I know him, and him that happened to as well, or her, her, and her.
Yes.
And since it's all the same story,
They've got the blueprint.
it's like more believable almost. So first of all, his reputation is destroyed. Then he loses everything he owns, so he loses his house. Then on top of that, he's paying child support. So he lost his friends.
Yes.
He lost his he lost his money.
And because you're so all over the place, you could even lose your job. If it depends on the type of job you're in, because of the nature of the work I was in, it was dangerous for me to be working. I had to pack up work effectively. So you could potentially lose your job.
And you lose your kids.
Yeah.
So you have no contact with your kids for a year, and you're coming to these solicitors who are just ready to take even more money from you.
Yes.
And oftentimes there's no incentive for them to give you good advice.
They string you along. They sort of, how can I put it? They string you along 90% of the times. And I know cases where guys have gone completely against the solicitor's advice and they've won. So then I said, but why would your solicitor, because what it is, if they keep you on edge, you're more prepared to hand money over because you think you're on the edge, you think you're going to see your kids. If you were told, look, there's no point spending this money, you're not going to see your kids, better you you do this and this, take this way out, they're not going to, that's £15,000-20,000 potentially sitting in front of you. So you keep them on edge, and then if it goes into a financial order later on, that's even more money. So they keep you, from what I've seen, they keep that emotional state of flight and fight, they keep you there, they won't calm you down and give you that direction.
So what happens if he does the guilty plea? Is that he's never going to see his kids again?
No, I wouldn't say. You could still potentially see your kids depending on how your case pans out, right? Yeah, don't get me wrong, there's many horror stories, but there are a few successes, and sometimes some people do come out of it okay, as in they have some contact. But there are a lot of people, when you're doing that for 2-3 years, it is so emotionally draining. So it's financially, mentally, emotionally draining. During this period of no contact, your children are being alienated as well. So a lot of fathers I've known said, I had a great relationship with my kids. Even during when they had contact, they said, we got along so well. CAFCAS got involved, the social services, they interviewed the kids, and the kids say something completely opposite because they are coerced into it. The allegations, the brainwashing, the alienation has kicked in. So then when you end up in court, because what studies have shown is, so let's say I lost contact a year ago, for argument's sake. That period of no contact whatsoever has already done the damage. So then I fight through the court system for the next 2 or 3 years. By the time the judge grants contact, the kids are so damaged and alienated, the mother then says, it's not me, they don't want to see him. Because they start creating...
She's been talking shit for years.
When I say talking shit, I'd go further. It's even further. The damage of parental alienation is more than talking shit, right? Yeah, talking shit is one thing. It's understandable. She's angry, she's upset. But when you create dependency on the child, as in, oh, you know your dad's left, but don't worry, I'm never going to leave you. Imagine a small child. They're going through that trauma and pain of suddenly not seeing one of their parents. Then when the mother starts reinforcing it with love and affection, that's more dangerous. Talking shit is one thing, it's still bad enough, yeah, it still does damage. But when you reinforce that with love and affection, like, mummy's never going to leave you, don't worry. Have an extra dessert. I'll always look out for you. I know your dad left, but I will always love you, don't worry. Daddy's got a new family. That damage into children, I speak to men in their 20s, as soon as I mention contact with their father, a barrier comes up and they shut down. Alienation is damaging, lifelong damage. And the point is, after 2 or 3 years, you've battled, you've got through, you've survived. At that point, your children may say, I don't want to see him. Because the family court allows such a period between any result. The mother's got free reign to practically.
So if it's a newborn versus a 3-year-old, like, that's a completely different kid. The kid's already, like, most of your brain development is the first 3 years. It's
done. I know kids. I know fathers. I bumped into a father recently on the street. He recognised me from one of my videos. He said he's got contact with his 2 sons, but his daughters won't talk to him. So I asked him how old they were. One daughter was 20 and one was 18, but he lost contact 3 years ago. I said, but hold on, they were still at an age where they understood things. So they were in their teens, well into their teens. But because of that lost contact, he goes, even then, at that age, even in those teen years, they're grown, you could say grown women, they're teenagers, 16, 17. They were still, even at that age, they said, no, we don't want to see dad anymore. So I always assume alienation, if you catch the child before, say, the age of 12, right, yeah, there's more chance of alienating stronger, yeah, you can alienate them harder. But now that I realise you can still do this at 16, 17, 18. I did an interview with a chap on one of my podcasts a few weeks ago. His eldest daughter is now 17, right, yeah. This guy said his daughter helped mum alienate the other 2 children. He goes, the daughter took the baton off mum and ensured the other 2 children he had contact with lost contact as well. So that's how powerful alienation is. And he's now, the guy's so distraught, he said, I'm probably never going to see them again. And he has a resentment to his eldest daughter. She goes, she's 17, 18. She engaged in alienating my other 2 children against me. He's now got that to contend with as well. So that's how powerful alienation is. But the court allows for all of this. The family, I don't know why or what the overall agenda is, but the family court categorically allow for this because there's so many hurdles and barriers placed all along the way. There's a domestic abusers perpetrators program, yeah, only for men in the family court. So even if a woman is convicted of domestic abuse in the family court, she doesn't have to go on the program. That is only for men. There's another, and that also costs thousands again. There's a hurdle placed at every step.
Wow.
I mean, it's the horror of it all. It is when you know this is what you're up against. Most men give up. They give up along the way. They're broken. They write a letter into the court saying, "I'm done. I'm out," just for my own mental sanity, for my own sanity. Otherwise, they'll end up, potentially drugs, drink, suicide.
So, when would the domestic abuse perpetrator program, would that happen before or after?
No, that's later on in the court process. Which
so on top of child support.
Oh yeah. When you go into the court, right? Before you even go into court, so
what does that cost?
I'm not sure, but I know it costs potentially a few. I can't quote exactly, but I know it's not cheap.
It doesn't have to be. Guess.
The last person told me that they went. It was potentially about $2,000 maybe.
$2,000.
Depending on how extended it is, and also the other scam as well. Sorry, just to add to that, you want to talk about cost again, yeah? There is a place, if the judge then allocates, if you've had long-term no contact with your child, what they say is it's not safe for you to have contact with your children yourself, so you have to go to a contact centre. The contact centre costs £100 plus an hour.
So, okay.
And then they say you have to go to the contact centre every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks. So to see your child, you think, all right, it's just another £100, another £200. You have to pay every step of the way. And this is what they're saying. The fact, Matt O'Connor and some of his research, I spoke to Matt and his wife Nadine there, and they reckon with the research they have done, the family court industry generate more accumulated wealth than the defence budget. 70.1 billion annually.
70, is that in the UK or?
UK.
70.1 billion.
Annually. That's the defence budget. They reckon the family court system The acrimony, the separation, you have to get a separate flat, more furniture. My point, it keeps the system going. Then the barristers, the solicitors, and all these organisations along the way, add to that all the legal aid that is claimed under these allegations. You add all of this up, we're going into the billions. They reckon potentially close to the defence budget, like I said, 70 billion. So why would anyone want it to stop? Why would they stop this?
So I'm just trying to go through. So you do the court application and you go to the lawyer and they say you either take the plea or you fight it. And so even if you do get your kids after you fight it, either way, whatever route you went, it'll still take you 2 to 3 years. A lot of the time, not always. I know
it's normally, they said it's normally a year, but since these delays have come in since COVID, I know guys, forget even the delays. I know pre-COVID, what happens as soon as you make progress, so let's put it another way. Let's say the court orders contact a year in, you start having contact, you have to interact with the ex on some level. If she then claims abuse again, you've gone back to the start.
Wait, so
yes.
Okay, so you wait a year, you see your kid, finally, you fight it, whatever. Then if she does it again, you start over.
She can she can start all over. I know guys that have gone through the whole system. I know men that have lost contact for over 3 to 4 years. He got to the end. The judge saw through all of this, finally sort of started getting to the end. And the best he was going to get was mediation. She refuses to come to mediation, starts kicking off again. You have to go through the whole thing again. That's why and so you know when they say deadbeat dads, they never fought. You have got so many hurdles and barriers. I can understand why people give up. That could be the only option sometimes, because after 3 years, you might have to file again for access again. Let's say you could have contact even for a year. So after 3 years, you've had contact for 1 year. This is the other thing that happens with most men that I speak to, yeah? They've got contact. They've gone through the system, year, 2 years, they've got contact, they've started making a meaningful relationship with their child. They're a year into the relationship with their kids. Then they meet someone, they meet a new partner. The ex gets wind of it. Guess what? The game start all over again.
Because you have a new partner.
Yeah.
She hears about it, and then she does this again.
So you turn up, you start at the beginning all over again.
And then that's another, even if we did on the low end and it was 6 months, that's still, even if we said, which I think you said the typical is around a year.
Say it used to be a year. I know it's a lot longer, but they averaged it a year, but it's now a year and a half. Officially now it's a year and a half.
But even if let's just say it was 6 months, like he got on the low end, it was 6 months. It's still another 6 months. He has to go through this.
And another load of money.
Yeah.
You have, and this is what I'm saying. There are so many obstacles and barriers, and they have made it so easy for the. I won't even say women. I'll say this for the party that claims abuse, right, and takes action first. They have made it so easy to do. Then
they get the kids, hypothetically, but they still might have to do a domestic abuse perpetrator program.
Yeah, there's another couple of, they've got so many other courses and hurdles. Let's say you go through all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got 2 or 3 courses like this, I believe, yeah. And they, to show goodwill, a lot of fathers just go on it, do it, just to show goodwill. Look, judge, I've done it. They then, right, at some point, the missus can say, oh, look, he's on drugs. You have to go and do, at your own cost, do a drugs test. There's so many hurdles and barriers along the way.
And if he was on drugs or drinking, it's probably because of this.
Yeah,
because, I would drink.
Yeah, no choice. Yeah, listen, bring it on, man.
Yeah.
That's all you got.
Yeah, like you have nothing.
Yeah, no, it is so soul destroying.
You know,
it's soul destroying.
This whole documentary has really changed my view on homeless people.
No,
because honestly, I really came from a place of, if you're homeless, it's your own fault.
So did I. Swear to God, I'm not gonna lie. I've seen homeless people. I just assume, junkie. Occasionally give a little pound, but look at me, junkie was pissed, right? I now realise, I've now talked to these homeless people. I know how they got there, because I'm technically one of them. I'm effectively homeless. I've had to walk with these people, and I look at them and I can see why 80% of homeless are men. 80%. I mean, when's the last time you saw a homeless female? I had to sit there and think, I've never seen one. I have never in my life seen a homeless woman, ever. And then I realised why. And once I've entered this, I've realised how men get homeless. I was even told at one point, if you get convicted, I don't know if it's the family court, the criminal court of domestic abuse, your name goes on a register up and down the country with all the councils. You will not get housing. You're on your own. Even if you're down on your luck, you will not be given housing if you're labelled as a domestic abuser. So you're literally just surviving on the streets or friends, relatives, people's mercy and handouts. This is literally how you are. And the other argument is this: because if you have a property in your name and assets, yeah, even though you need all of that to fight this, you don't get no benefits. There's no support for you. You're done.
What do you explain that?
So you know, government. I don't know what they call it in America. You know, America, where government give people money. You know, how can benefits? What do you call benefits in America? Yeah, benefits. Yeah. So government give you benefits. If you're unemployed, you get child benefit or unemployment benefit or something like that. Yeah, because you've effectively got assets and you've been made homeless. The asset is still in your name until all of this is resolved. Yeah. You may not be entitled to anything from the government. So you're literally, every door is shut. And in the community generally, it's very hard to, you know, to put your hand out and go to people for support. Or
well, especially when you're known as an abuser.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. See, I can't even cover the embarrassment and the humiliating factor of all of this. And this is why genuinely a lot of guys, they get to a stage and they say, enough is enough. How much can you take? Every father that's gone through this has contemplated suicide. Wow. But this is horror, and this is what and sorry, just to add one more thing. You know the family courts and this order that is served on you. If you tell anyone about the orders or it gets out, that is a breach of the order, and you get put in prison. So you can't tell anyone. This is when I say destroy you through litigation. You cannot tell anyone about the order. What it's for, why is it against you? You cannot give details about it, so you are silenced. And the family court is a secret court. There's no cameras, there's no scrutiny, there's no jury. Lives are destroyed behind those doors, literally.
So how are you able to talk about it if...
I'm talking about the system. I'm not specifically talking about me. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well,
I can talk about what's happened to me. I can't give you details of the order in and out.
Because if you do talk, you could go to...
They'll come and get you. They
go to jail.
The family court is a secret court. So now go back to what I said initially. So 41, lived in this country. How did I never know this? How is it that men only find out when these things are served on them, but all the women knew the blueprint? They had the blueprint. They knew it. And the other one is, I know a father who keeps repeating this one word. I've heard him on a couple of podcasts. He keeps repeating his own experience here. Came home from work one day, Mrs. Kids disappeared, gone. He's panicked. He calls the police, like, I don't know where my wife and kids are. And this word that he keeps saying, I can see he lives this every time he says it. He says, your wife and child are safe and secure. You need to seek legal advice. That is it. Came home from work one day, bang, that's it. Next thing you know, he lost his business. He fought and fought and fought, and he got his kids in the end. He got full custody. But it's these horrors that no one hears about. And my point is, how was I so unaware, unprepared, and had no understanding that the system is this oppressive against men? Because they've somehow kept it so quiet because it's a secret family court.
So what do you mean? So when you go to, I haven't spent a ton of time in any court.
No.
I got caught with a fake ID once. That's the extent of it in college. But so is a normal court that's public?
Yeah.
Anyone can go to it. So if I went to criminal court and I wanted to accuse you of abuse, and we went to a criminal court, that would be public.
That'd be great, because that would require evidence. Number one, you're innocent till proven guilty in a criminal court.
Okay.
You have a jury. You have a lot more people scrutinizing it. In the family court, there's no jury, there's no scrutiny, there's no cameras, there's no public. There is just you, the judge, and a lot of cases where I know fathers...
It's just you and the judge.
No, it's worse than that. A lot of the fathers that I know have gone in, the father is on his own. He can't afford any representation, so he represents himself. Secondly, you got to remember, no evidence is required. These are just allegations in the family court. Yeah, if you're a man, you're guilty till you're proven guilty in the family court. That's how it is. So I know a father, for example, I know many fathers. They've gone in to represent themselves on their own. They had a female judge. They had their ex missus there. they had the women's aid lady there, and they had some other they had their legal aid lawyer and a legal aid barrister. So this one guy had 5 people against him, and if they're all women, unfortunately, who are, you know, when I say the radical sort of feminist ideology where they're pushing this agenda of abuse, yeah. So there's one guy on his own. You got these 2 of trained experts, solicitor and a barrister, against this geezer, throwing these allegations. Get for free. They get for free. You're on your own because you can't afford it. Guys have got angry and frustrated at the oppression that goes on. And when they get angry, they're like, see, Judge, we told you he was angry. Look, he's got anger problems. He's getting angry now. And then guys have just walked out. You couldn't write this stuff.
So the family court, the issue with the family court is that it's secret. There's no jury. And it's to the discretion. The judge has to decide, and oftentimes the judge. Would you say most judges are like feminists and have feminist?
I don't think they're feminists, but I think they're so out of date and out of touch. And there has to be some higher order in there that has told them they pander to the madness. This is what I do not understand. You think you're going to be? They were grown ups and say, look, you disagreed on the color of the paint. This does not make him an abuser. It's like so. This is the sort of thing that happens, and people can't understand like how the madness is, right? So one guy, for example, when he said, yeah, I disagreed with this, we had an argument and I disagreed, I don't agree with this. The judge in the end sort of said, so basically you could have agreed with her but you chose not to because you wanted to control her. He's like, sorry, what? Like, nah, this ain't happening. You're standing there and you're thinking, is this really happening? It's madness.
But my question is like, the judges are individuals. So I'm just wondering like, why is it so one-sided? Because I'd imagine like if we walk in.
Because the power, as I said, the women's aid lobby, the whole, I'm not anti or anything, but the women's movement is so powerful. They have so many connections, and they leverage the family court. So you got to understand, the family court was designed, as a paralegal told me, for under the Child Protection Act. Yeah, the certain group has studied that whole law around child protection. They've taken out exactly all the loopholes and what they need to do, and from that, a blueprint has been formulated by this organisation. Very powerful, very organised. That organisation is so powerful, so they've leveraged the court fully to one way. And when you're a man, society is only coming over now to realise that men can also be domestically abused. There was that presumption that domestic violence, man is the one who's the oppressive one. There's always been that presumption. Up until recently, it's a subconscious bias. I believe that. If, for example, I'll put it another way. I'll make it even personal. Let's say my sister comes home, crying and screaming, oh, he beat me, he this, that, X, Y, Z. You're automatically going to think, oh, poor sis, what happened? Why did he do this? What? It's just a natural, for men instinctively will assume.
Well, it's interesting. Since I started doing my show, I've kind of had this shift, because when girls would say they were, I'm going to say raped because I can't say it on YouTube, like raped, abused, anything. At first I would always just like believe them because I wouldn't think anyone would lie about that. Yeah. But then I would start to ask more questions, like, did you go to the police? Did you do this? Did you do that? And then they would all say no. And my thought, I'm like, if somebody raped me, I'm going to the fucking cops. Like, you would not catch me. Like, if someone abused me, like if someone punches me in the face.
You would. If there's been allegations, let me give to you some allegations. Like one allegation that I know of, and many people, loads have got to me. He tried to strangle me and he nearly killed me, and I passed out. That was so many years ago. What did you do? So you carried on sleeping in the same bed, living in the same house, no issue. Yeah. But now, the day you decided to leave, or he decided to leave, he tried to kill me. Listen, if someone tried, there is no way you would sit on that without, like, if someone tried to strangle you. It just wouldn't happen. But these allegations of abuse are so, how can I put it? When you question, the thing is this, when someone's crying and they're emotional and they're saying it, it's very hard to pin down the detail. And this is what I say with all abuse allegations, press on the details. And from what I've noticed in my community, this is element of personality disorder where people genuinely believe they are victims for some reason. And it's prevalent in the Asian community now because they've got this chip on their shoulder through generational trauma or however things people have grown up because of the second generational trauma. I'm second generation Asian in this country. How my parents grew up and how their relationships were very different to say mine and ours would be. Yeah. So when I think girls have seen these generational issues, because father was generally the head of the household. My father, his father, they did lead the household. There was that cultural thing, yeah. But as times have shifted and culture has shifted here, that is now seen as a bad thing. So when you walked into your marital home, you automatically got that Stockholm syndrome where you're already looking for some sort of oppression. And this is where I like coercive control, allegations of abuse, this generational trauma. I've now studied that, and when they believe these things, combine that with the fact that the blueprint was already there, put two and two together, it's done.
Do you think the girls do it with malicious intent, or do you think it's more of like a brainwashing?
It depends on the case. A lot of which bit, the going to the family court, the molestation order. I think for some reason, women, I think, look, emotions are high. Relationships are got broken down, and the lot of, so your emotion, I think there's a vindictive element to it, number one, yeah, which I can almost understand to some level. You're upset and hurt, you know, shit happens, right, yeah. But a lot of the other cases that I know of, yeah, is they've not done it through how can I put it, because of, for example, the last guy that I interviewed, yeah, last father I spoke to, his missus, they were married before pre-social media. Once social media, Instagram and all of that came out, he goes, his missus got influenced into thinking through social media, people putting their best versions of themselves, that I can do better. I can do better than this guy. I don't need him. I don't need his money. I am independent. Why am I living like this? And they've walked out effectively. But once you've decided to walk out or end the relationship for whatever reason, we're thinking, well, hold on, how do I come out of it good? They go to, straight away, they have access to that blueprint, and most guys end up with everything I've said to you. They have that blueprint. But the last guy I spoke to, he blamed social media. He said his relationship went completely down, and then she decided to eject. A lot of the fathers I spoke to, even in my own community now, where my community was known for marriage, they were very strong on marriage and family unit and those values, they're no longer there. The women are ending relationships and walking out. Presumably they feel they can do better. But once they've decided that, how do you go out with the maximum gain? Children, finances and home. And
they just see it as an opportunity.
Blueprint is there, why not?
And so the difference, so in the family court, it's in secret, there's no jury, it's just you and the judge, and because you don't have any, or the women's aid she might have the women's aid basically
she's got women's aid representation,
legal.
She's got a legal aid solicitor and a barrister. She might have 2 or 3 or 4 people with her, including herself. You are on your own.
Because she filed first.
Because she's a woman, she's filed, she's claimed, again, you got to understand the card. She's played the abuse card, she's now secured X, Y, and Z, all the way.
Okay.
You are fighting now uphill all the way.
And the judges are we call it, like in my space of YouTube, you might be familiar, maybe not, we call it like more of a blue pill mindset.
Right, yeah, 100%, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, where we've grown up in a society where we never question women, women are always the victims. And so the judges oftentimes either they might have feminist ideology, or they're just more blue pill, and so they pander.
Even if you're old school to a certain way, you are blue pill. I would say I am effectively to a certain degree, because generationally you are blue pill, because again, up until I got exposed to all of this, I've assumed like, you saw a woman crying, guy standing next to her. Now this is what I'm saying, when you add to the family, you've got a guy standing next to her, he's got a hat or beard, or he's a big black guy, or he's a muscly guy. What a bastard. He must be abused. It's that automatic subconscious bias that you have, and the judges have that all the way through.
Yeah.
And I know, I talked to the Mackenzie friends and the paralegals who represent men in court, and they've said it as well. On the last podcast I was on, the guy said it. He goes, as soon as the mother even puts on the tears in court because it's not going her way, the judge's position completely shifts, because he doesn't want to upset mum. And it now turns out, even in the Asian Muslim community who was strong on men and masculinity, the mosques and our own leaders, our community leaders, they won't touch this subject. Categorically, they won't touch it. They even refuse to put posters up that support men and represent men in court because they said we don't really want to upset the ladies. It is affected even though every community.
Because that's their money, right? Because I'd imagine like church, at least for, I don't know much about the Muslim community, but Christian, it's more female.
Ah, I see. Okay, so that would make sense there. No, in our community, I think it's just the backlash from the country we're living in because it's pro-blue pill.
Okay.
And that's what I believe. That's what I believe it is ultimately.
So, but in a criminal court, it would be more tough to do this because you'd have to convince a whole jury.
Yes, and you have to have evidence. You are innocent till proven guilty, and you need evidence in the criminal court. Family court, it's done on a balance of probability. So, say you're adamant, Judge, I did not do this. They will say, right, take 5 of these allegations. Let's study them. They interview the social services, interview you. They interview her. And they sit there and they say, on the balance of probability, we believe this happened. On the balance of probability, they'll say, yes, you disagreed, we understand, but we do believe there was an altercation and you threatened to kill her.
That doesn't make any sense because, like, you're putting the child care, like the access to the kids on a balance of probabilities. Like that's actually so messed up.
It is shocking. This is
so
to contemplate this and make sense of it. As much as I know about it, I still shock myself every time.
So, okay, so you go parental alienation. So then you go through all this. If you go to family court and you win, she can still just start it over again.
Okay, if you win and you got full custody, you become the resident parent, then you've got more clout. Then you can say, right, you got more clout. If 9 out of 10 times father just gets contact, she remains as the resident parent, resident carer of the children. So if you say get what they call reasonable contact is every other weekend, midweek contact, half of all summer holidays, Christmas holidays, and all this sort of stuff.
So like 6 days a month, that's reasonable?
Yeah, that's a good case. Listen, that's a success story.
Really? 6 days a month is
let me tell you that. That is a good outcome, yeah.
Wow.
That is a very good outcome in this case. That's exactly and this is what I'm saying, the position is so far, I'm telling you that's a good outcome. You understand that? And what happens is then, during that period, let's say you don't play ball or she doesn't feel like you're playing ball, or guess what, she just wants to get back at one guy I knew, she just wanted to get back at him, started all over again. So you go up to, you turn up on the weekend to pick up your kid. Oh, they've gone out. Where they gone? They're not here. All these little games start. Before you know it, she calls the police and says, oh look, he's being abusive and threatening because he's angry. You get angry, you don't see your kids, where are they? It's my weekend, why aren't they here? You get angry, she calls the police. Police come take you away. She can apply for a new molestation order. The whole thing could start again.
And so really your only outcome where you wouldn't have to keep dealing with this for 18 years is if you get primary custody.
If you get primary custody or you're at her mercy effectively and how much she loves her child. If someone genuinely loves their child and does not want to damage their child, you'd like to think they won't engage in this, for the greater good of the child and they co-parent. But I know one chap, I know one case specifically, when he, after 3 years, he wrote into the, for one of his children, he gave up. He said, look, no more court, I'm done, I'm out, I've given up. Once he gave up for taking her to court to get access, a few weeks later, she let him have access. And he said, well, why? I don't understand. She goes, I don't see you squirm anymore, so it's no fun anymore, so I don't really care. That's what happened to him. He lost contact in the end, but these are the games that are played because the option is there. Even if you're a reasonable person, when you're upset, someone's hurt you, the option is there to do this. You've got leverage, you're done.
So, so if she feels, which, as women, we feel different every day.
Yes.
But if it's the right day and she just feels super angry, we have the option to put a guy through hell, basically, and ruin his entire life.
Yes.
And if he could have done nothing, but I'm just thinking of how women think. If he cheated or if he spent something she didn't feel like he should spend, anything that she feels.
It is that brutal.
Yeah. I'm not saying it was that brutal, but if she feels it was that brutal.
No, but the system is that brutal. That's all it needs. That's all it effectively needs.
And then a good outcome is 6 days a month.
That is generally deemed as good. 6 days a month, half of all summer holidays, Christmas holidays, birthdays, midweek phone call. That is deemed as a good. You're a weekend uncle. You're basically and effectively a weekend uncle, and that's a good outcome.
And the other thing is, whoever she dates will have more influence over the kids than
your
you.
kids are gone. Look, I can say this. the last time I saw or spoke to my children was 16th of March 2022. I don't even know what they sound like now, yeah? And you know what's scary? They're less than a mile up the road. How is it possible that I cannot see my children that are 1 mile up the road? How? What sort of society is this where I cannot go see my child without getting in further trouble?
Because if you do
There's
go,
barriers and hurdles. Because
if you do, she can just cry abuse.
If I go to school
Or
now, let's say I rock up at the school gates, for example, yeah, just to see my kids, yeah. And I hate to say it, but the whole school mums club, the teachers at the school, some of the teachers at the school, ultimately, once that abuse card has come out, you're a monster, effectively, yeah. I rock up at the school gates, I'll probably do 24 hours in the cell, that's it. Done. You are literally controlled through the system. The family court machine is fully aligned against you.
So I want to talk about the people behind it. So there's the women's group, the lawyers,
The barristers.
Oh, those are barristers.
Yeah,
here.
so lawyers and barristers are
yeah.
part of the same.
What's the difference between those?
As in, I'm trying to think in American terms. So in America, you'll have the guy that actually talks in court, and the guy that actually does the paperwork. And
okay.
Yeah, so the first guy you see at the office ain't the guy that stands there and talks. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know in America.
But it's the same group, basically.
Yes, same group.
There's the women's group, the lawyers, and the barristers.
And the women's group, you got to understand, the more people that walk through their door, they get government funding.
They're government funded, but are they different than the child support group? That's a different group, right?
Oh, that's a different machine. Yeah, child CMS are a different group. So you got to understand. So you got the women's group, you got the lawyers and barristers, you've got the child support, then you've got the police who effectively work for the courts. The police are aligned with the courts, yeah.
Police, and so the courts is completely different too.
Yeah, police. The police are separate to the courts, but the police effectively will work. They work for the court. They're against
family court, but family court is completely separate.
Yes,
from criminal court.
And then you can also add to that social services, the CAFCAS.
Social services. Yeah. Where does social?
They fit in with the family court, so they're another department of the family court.
Okay,
they're effectively against you as well.
They're in family courts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're affected. You're literally fighting a monster.
Social services. Okay. So I'm going to understand how the groups interact with each other. So the money comes from. Okay. So it starts. I'm trying to explain this right. So the women's group starts, and they're government funded.
They're government funded. Yes.
They're government funded.
Government funded organization, right?
Okay. So I'm just trying to follow
and
them.
Add to that, they have a lot of little charities and all. They're now a very big machine on their own. Financially, that's a lot of money going back and forth. So the Women's Aid is a very big, powerful machine. Yeah, that's the money trail starts there. Okay,
so the money starts with the women's group. They give money to the lawyers.
They give the blueprint.
The barristers.
No. They don't. I don't know who pays the barristers, but the legal aid comes from government. So the Women's Aid help the one making the allegations secure the legal aid. So then that legal aid goes to the lawyers and the barristers.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, but essentially the lawyers and the barristers, I'd imagine, have an incentive to appease this group.
Yes.
Because they get the most money from this group, right?
I'll go as far as saying backhanders going back and forth all day. They're both in on it together. They're in on the scam, yeah?
So then the lawyers and the barristers
get the legal aid. And then add to the lawyers and the barristers, they get the legal aid from one party. When you go to try and fight these allegations and make contact to your children, they get money from your personal savings as well.
Okay,
so that's another money trail coming in there.
So that's the personal savings, but that's separate. But they're always going to get more money from the women's group. So their incentive to the women's group
they have to. The women's group send the clients.
Yeah.
They secure the money from the government, the lawyers, but they send the clients through the door and give them the stamp.
And so they have to appease the women's group, because if the lawyer doesn't appease the women's group, then they stop getting clients. So I'd imagine if you came in with your ex-wife and you both went to the same lawyer, they would have to appease your ex-wife more, because otherwise they wouldn't get like the most clients, I'd imagine, because they're free.
Yeah. Each case that walks in, you got to imagine this, right? Each case that walks in effectively for the whole duration of the case, that legal aid bill effectively is nearly 25, 30 grand. So every woman that walks in through that door and that Women's Aid stamp off, the lawyers and the barristers will get legal aid 25, 30 grand from the government. So they're all in on the scam.
Okay, so then child support, where do they get their money? They get their money.
They get money from you. the father, the paying father.
Fathers, okay.
Independent organization. People think it's a government organization, but it's a private contractor working for the government.
Independent.
And they get their money through you. They make money off your child maintenance.
Well, who hires them? The government?
The government.
So, okay, so independent organization, but they work for the government.
Yeah, so people think it's a government organization. Their website's a government website. But it turns out, I've found out recently, it's an independent contractor.
But so they get money. They don't. So they have an incentive because men make more than women on average.
Yes.
So they have an incentive to discriminate against fathers.
Yes.
Because otherwise they don't make money.
And as you said before, they need to keep that group happy.
They have to keep
the top group happy, the women's
group.
Because think about it, their mandates, child support mandate is the less contact father has, the more father pays.
So do they talk to the women's group?
I believe from what research I've done, women's aid leverage child support. You got to understand, look, if a woman's angry and upset and she's more likely to not give contact, more money goes through child maintenance. Because like I said, if the less contact father has, the more he pays. Whose interest is that in?
The women.
And if I'm paying more money into CMS, there's more money going for child maintenance's accounts. And sometimes what happens is, if the women are really angry, CMS deduct money out your wages. They tend to take a 20% cut out your money. They get 20% if they take money straight out your account. So the more acrimony, the more money child support make. If you came to a private arrangement with your ex and you paid her directly, and even then also, the other thing with child support is this. Let's say I was paying her cash every month, because I'm doing my bit for my kid, we had a reasonable arrangement. Tomorrow she gets angry. There's no record of this, She calls up child maintenance, he hasn't paid, oh yeah, we split up a year ago. They will backdate you a bill for a year. The cash that you pay, there's no record, you're done. There are so many angles that they can pull. They have so many weapons that they can use.
And it doesn't matter, even if you can't even fight that, because in family court it's up to a jury. And
No. It's worse. Child support are nothing to do with family court.
Child support.
Child maintenance. You know CMS.
So how does that happen?
CMS is an independent organizer. It's nothing to do with family court. So when you say, but look, I don't even see my children, nothing to do with us, sir. You need to go to family court. Child maintenance are not connected directly with any of the organizations. You got to remember that. They're an independent body. They're purely to say, you need to support your children. We're taking money out of your account, or you need to pay this, we've calculated. You have a child, you have parental responsibility. That's what the law is. They've got you. So anytime you go to work or progress or do overtime, I know guys that won't do overtime because as soon as they accidentally go over that next threshold, their money will be bumped up by another £300. It is absolutely brutal.
Okay, so child support. So how does child support know how much they're supposed to pay?
Because child support have access to your earnings.
So they look at your bank account?
No, they have access to your PAYE government tax documentation. They know everything, every penny you earn.
What if a guy was paid outside of cash?
Then they can't do that. They can't. Child support cannot touch you if you pay. Obviously, if you're doing cash in hand, number one, or you work via some sort of self-employed or limited company, then you've got more options. But ultimately, even if you work for a limited company, if you have a pay slip of any sort that's given to you by any company, so for example, you give Blessing a pay slip of some sort to say he's earned this much, or maybe you don't pay him. I don't know.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, there'll be a tax record on there. Child maintenance, CMS have access to the taxes you pay on the government record. They know exactly how much you earn. Most guys say our average blokes, PAYE, they're part of the government system, they're employees, they've got you. If you don't have a skill that you can be paid in cash in hand, you have to go to work. They've got you. They've got you on every angle. Unless you're like to have a limited company, just for those watching out there who are in trouble. If you can start a company, work under a limited company, it will give you more options. But if you're normal PAYE, they've got you. You live in poverty, you live without contact, you walk around with trauma, your only option is drink and drugs, and the whole system just grinds you down till you're beaten.
And how does the police factor into this? So the police, where does the money come from?
The police there's no money element with the police. The police are just there. You gotta understand. The police work for the government. These are government systems and organisations. They're just slaves of the system.
So but in a way, they have to appease the women's group because the women's group is government funded, and child support is also government funded. So they have to appease these two groups.
Yes, they appease those groups, but more than that, what they do is police are also effectively from that blue pill mindset. Men report abuse and domestic abuse. It is not taken seriously. Men, they are laughed out, and most men don't report it. They say 40% of male domestic abuse is not reported, and those that report it are not taken seriously. Unless you've got a serious gaping wound on you or something, you're not taken seriously. Men are not taken seriously. So as much as the police are just slaves of the system,
they're also
blue
pill.
I think the organisation is blue pill effectively, because you come to a house, like I said, you see a big strapping guy and you see a woman screaming and crying. Ultimately, it is very difficult to not react to that.
So my question is, why wouldn't the police when I started doing my show, or like looking at this content, I started in more of like a blue pill mindset. But upon like dealing with more and more women, I was like, oh my God, these girls are lying. Like they're not telling the truth. Like, and especially when it came to abuse. And there was actually one girl that came on my show, and it was really crazy because I remember like when I first heard her story, there was just like, I remember asking her if she went to she said that the dad doesn't have access to her kids anymore. And I said, well, did he abuse them? And she said no. And I didn't really press her on it. But I was so confused later. And then months later, she comes back and says, please take the stream down. Please, please, please. And I'm like, bitch, no. Like, and she was irritating me so much. I was like, let me find your baby. Like, I didn't, because I don't know who she's with. You know, I don't know. But like now, and I'm learning about this, it was probably because she went to court. And I doubt they'll even find the stream. Like I have so many videos on my channel. What are the odds he finds the stream that she says I didn't abuse him? Like he didn't abuse the kids. But I figure in hindsight, like that's probably why. But like, why don't the police have that like moment where they've done this for years?
Okay, let's talk about America. I speak to a lot of guys in Texas and whatnot, right? I speak to one guy in Texas, right? Again, Texas being Texas, America being America, the amount of obviously fathers access to guns and the violence that is coming from this frustration, they're turning the guns on themselves. He goes, it doesn't even make, in Utah, Texas, he goes, it doesn't even make mainstream. It's for some reason in all the, and this is the same, what we're talking about is the same in all the Western countries for some reason. I speak to guys in Europe, Canada, and the guys in America have said police turn up, they are effectively automatically on the side of the crying, doting mother. Simple, the female. It's a society thing, it's a cultural thing. The world is still in that mindset of it's a crying woman, we need to protect her. She's obviously a victim. And until I entered this whole arena, I can't see it. Just it's sort of in front of you, it's right under your nose, but you cannot see it. It's like when you say you came in as a normal sort of just a blue pill mindset, then you kept listening to these stories and something triggered inside you, and you shifted your thinking for, hold on, this ain't right. What I can't understand is how is that secrecy maintained where it's happening under our noses, I can't see. For example, I think now this summer, right, all the people that I know in my community that are going to get married and settle down, they have absolutely no idea of how easy it is that their children can be. I look at a guy with a father now down the street in the park now playing with his kid, and I think, does he understand how easy it is for him, that kid, to be taken away from him? Until you enter this, you can't see it, and I don't know why, and it has to be because it's kept secret. And this whole blue pill mindset, I think every man has some blue pill mindset on some level or other. We all have mothers, sisters. I've got daughters. Do you see what I'm saying? It is a naturally built-in thing, but it is built into society.
And so where does the family court and social services tie into this? Their money comes from...
Right, no, yeah, so their money comes from government, I suppose. The social services are paid from government, yeah? So there are hundreds of people working in these jobs. They're paid by government. Now, CAFCAS are the social services, social workers that work for the family court, basically, yeah? They work in the family court arena, child contact, that sort of thing. But I recently found out these CAFCAS officers, those social workers, they're trained by, who do you think?
Women's group.
So
Wow. So
lot
the
of
women's
fathers,
group
loads of, there's 100,
trains social services.
there are
And I'd
hundreds.
imagine most social service workers are women.
Yes.
I'd imagine.
And
Yeah.
most of them are women. And what a lot of guys have said to me, even solicitors have said to me, that if you have when I say social services, label it as CAFCAS. That is the name of the organisation.
CAFCAS?
CAFCAS. They are the social services for the family courts. That's the organisation. Now, loads of fathers I've spoken to, right, yeah, loads of cases, yeah, they have said categorically, you could get unlucky. If you get a guy come in as a social services officer, you got lucky. A lot of guys have said, women, when they happen to be women, they think it went okay, but the stuff they come out with, and they basically side ultimately with the resident parent, which is the mother. They say they're non-biased because their interest is only the child.
Mm-hmm.
But there's thousands and thousands of cases.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot tell me they were all bad fathers
Mm-hmm.
and they all needed to reduce contact. I had a case recently. I was speaking to a father recently, the other day, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a police officer. He had allegations labelled against him, suspended from the force, right? This is a police officer now, yeah. Judge went to court, everything for 1 year, got access to his children, seen them in a contact centre. Then Mrs. I think claimed some more allegations or something or other.
Mm.
He had to have a CAFCAS interview with the social services, the court social services, CAFCAS. CAFCAS came down, his missus, right, showed the CAFCAS officer a text message of a story of an incident that he had to write up on his phone and send him to work because he's a police officer. There was an incident with some case, violent incident, so he had to write down the details and send it off to his station. His missus got hold of that message and said, look, this is the sort of stuff he's engaged in. He's a police officer. So the CAFCAS lady said, yeah, he engages in obviously this sort of violence due to his job. He might be a danger to the kids. I'll stop access. He's a police officer. Like, of course he's good. What else?
Right.
So this is the madness. So when the judge even saw it and said, hold on, why are we, even then the judge questioned the CAFCAS officer and said, why are we stopping contact because of one text message? But someone made that decision. My point is the CAFCAS officer looked at that to say, no, you're a danger to the public, you're a danger to your children because you are a police officer. So we're going to stop contact. This is the sort of madness that you're dealing with.
So I just want to know why the family court system, like why is it so secret?
Because if this all comes out into the open, the money train might stop. Number one. Number two, once there's scrutiny and people, like for example, once you see this madness and you think, hold on, this, like I said, I'm 41. I had no idea this is going on under my nose in this country we live in, yeah? How do you keep it secret? That's why.
You know, it's one thing I've noticed. I take Ubers a lot. And I've noticed, like, I've started asking my Uber drivers if they've had any issues with the family court. It's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I would say, like, at least 1 to 2 out of 4 are, like, guys that have been screwed over in court.
Big time. This is something I can't understand, yeah? If me and you are talking about this now and I've seen this horror and I thought, I can't sit by and do nothing, yeah? The last 20, 30 years, all the fathers that have lost contact and gone through this, I'm shocked that there's not been major riots and stuff like, do you know what I mean? Even the stuff I hear that goes on in America and the family courts, I think is even more brutal. How is this allowed to go on in all the Western sort of countries this is going on?
So, who pays the family court? Who pays the judges?
Government. $2,000 a day.
The government.
Two grand
government
yeah,
pays.
Judge gets $2,000 a hearing. So I hate to say it, but judges, they make a lot of money.
So why? And the government, but I talked about this with the Fathers for Justice guy.
Matt,
Matt.
Good,
he said it's because, and now the government has to pander to women because they won't get elected again if they don't pander to women. So there's no incentive.
This is what Matt. See, I remember Matt's interviews years ago, and as he said it, what they said, the highest voting. Again, don't quote me on this. Yeah. I remember this from Matt's interview himself, right? The highest voting population is single mums. Who's going to go against them? And Women's Aid is a very powerful organisation. Women's Aid, you got to understand, Women's Aid have lobbied government and got these laws into place. They lobby government. They have a lot of leverage. And like Matt said, the highest voting population is single mums. Hence, this is going on under our noses.
Wow.
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it?
So what happened to you? So I know you can't speak everything, so just tell me what you can.
What I tend to do is I talk about a client that I'm representing and what happened in his case, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this client of mine that I'm representing, he was married for 10 years, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for multiple of issues, personality disorders and other sort of issues of that nature, his children were being alienated under his nose. Now, people assume alienation only happens once you separate, yeah? Coercive control, I believe, I'll even put this out there bluntly, I believe more men are being coercively controlled than women, yeah? Even though the stats say otherwise, because I'll say 80%, 70% of those men don't even know they're being controlled. Now, for example...
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so for example, like this one client of mine, right? His children... Every time he wanted to do something with his children, for example, right? Mm-hmm. So he wanted, as his kids were growing up, he wanted to take them out, take them to his mum's, grandma's house, uncle's house, all of this stuff. There's barriers put at home, very subtle. So I said, I was just about to do dinner time. Oh, we can't take the kids now. Every time this father wanted to spend time with his kids or take them out, shower time, bedtime, it's homework time, and you can't only carry that on for so long. So he's saying, but why is it every time I'm doing something with the kids, there's an obstacle? When you're at home, you don't see, or when he used to come home from night shift, this one father specifically, right, yeah? He used to come home from night shift, he never used to go sleep. So his kids used to say, Dad, take me to school, drop us to school. So what his missus used to say to him was, she used to say, oh, look, you look really tired, babe. Maybe you should lie down for a couple of hours. He's like, no, I'm fine. No, you look really tired. Why don't you lie down? When you come back, I'll make you a nice breakfast. And he's like, yeah, you're right, I am feeling tired. He lays down for 2 hours, he doesn't actually sleep, but he misses out on that moment because she controls the school pickups and drop-offs. That moment with the child is very special. The pickups, the drop-offs, they talk, how was your day, that little bonding moment. She wouldn't allow him to bond. She wouldn't allow members of his family to bond with his children. So one day he realised his child was 8 years old at this stage, right, yeah? His child said, how can we not play with our cousins and brothers and sisters from your side of the family? Then it turns out his child doesn't even know the names of his uncles and aunties. 8 years old, that can't happen. And these family live nearby. His family live nearby. That cannot happen overnight. Now, when you realise a child
does the guy know this happening?
He knows, but subconsciously there's an element of when you're in a relationship with someone who's unpredictable, yeah, and this unpredictable person has your children. This unpredictable person looks like a victim to the world. You got to understand, some of these narcissist behaviour and personalities, they look like a victim. They are a victim. They convince themselves they're a victim. And this is my point. No one is going to believe you. So when you challenge this at home, right, how do you challenge this? How do you challenge someone with a personality disorder? And unless you've experienced interactions with someone like this, you're living in a prison of your own. You're just trying to manage yourself. But you think as long as I'm around, I have some input into my children's life. It got to a point with this client where this control around the children got too much. It's now affecting the children. His children started telling him, Mama's a bit funny, ain't she? Why can't we go to our grandparents' house? Why can we not play with our relatives and cousins? So then he tried to stand up for his children. Now, you can't say something to this person because they're the main carer, primary carer of your children. You have to go to work. It's a very fine balance. But one day, he just thought, enough is enough. I have to do something. This has to end. At least if I end it, my contact with my children will be my time. I will bond with my children. I'll have a meaningful relationship. Bang. Next thing you know, the family court machine activated. All of that, bang, 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 bang. Done. And there's one specific case that I could tell you about, right? So, 24 hours, day you split up, 24 hours in the cell, arrested, questioned by the police, various allegations of abuse, historic allegations going back 10 years, right? A few days later, you are landed with this molestation order because she has secured legal aid. Yeah, you are now landed with this molestation order followed by an occupation order, so you can't go to your house, you're done. Then you are left literally wandering aimlessly on the street, right? Yeah, just surviving. because of the nature of this client's job, he couldn't work. Doctor signed him off. It's unsafe for him to work. Electrics, high voltage, he'd kill himself and other people. He cannot work in this environment. Career's done. Yeah. After that, he has to put an application in to see his children. Now, there's some major delays in the court system. He's still waiting to get his first hearing to go in and even put his case forward, and that's a year forward. And he's just left out in the system living like this. He has no, and just to add to that, all of his clothing, his tools, all of his personal belongings are in his house. He's got limited clothing, he's living out of a van and just surviving and hustling literally just to get by. You are left at the mercy of the system, right? And one more thing I would add to that was also, we're talking about once these allegations are labelled against you, the community turned against him. People from his own community came to rob his house and take stuff out of his house on the say-so of his ex, even though she was living there. So I can't explain it, but it is every aspect of your life is turned upside down, and you are expected just to go about your business on the street and, I don't know, survive. My personal story, 1 year molestation order, still running, left out, living out of a van, effectively, and hustling just to survive.
Do you think that the deadbeat dad is a myth?
I believe so, because until I came into this, I heard all these things and I was thinking, what horrible bunch of men don't want to spend time with their children. I think that deadbeat dad is a good rhetoric to have once you've alienated the father. He's got no access, he's given up, he's now deadbeat. I think it's all this whole man bashing element of it all. Now I can see, I never understood, right, yeah. Until all of this happened, the blue pill, red pill, masculinity, I had no idea of any of this. I never understood it because it's all sort of it's done under your nose, you don't see it. You know the law is not fully with men, but you don't realise it's this extreme. Once I entered this, now I understand the red pill movement, the blue pill movement. I understand these arguments of masculinity and X, Y, and Z. But before this, I had no understanding of any of it. Because you are literally dehumanized. A lot of fathers say to me, in this country now, you got to understand, yeah, if you find a homeless dog on the street, they will give it shelter, they will give it food, and they will protect it. A man has less rights than a dog here. That is a fact. You are left literally on the street.
Is there anything that can be done?
I think the first thing is exposure. Until we expose the secret family courts and it comes out, because what people don't realise, yeah, is the way I look at the family courts now is, I've survived. Look, I might be okay, yeah. I've survived. I'll get by. I'll do whatever, yeah. But the kids that are coming up now, let's say my son, when he grows up, will he survive this system? This I cannot see, and this is what I'm saying. I see my nephews and my nieces, but I look at all the boys in my family and I think, will they survive this? I think we have a duty. If our children are being kidnapped, literally like this, denied contact with their parent, they're being alienated and damaged, yeah. And single parent families, they've demonstrated, studies have shown in England and Wales alone, 80% of the prison population are from single parent homes. Now, if the government are happy to sit by and damage these children, my kids, your kids, all these other children, yeah, we have a duty to do something. And I think the key thing is, we're lucky we're in the age of social media. I think exposure till it gets into the mainstream. And what I'm doing myself personally, just to put it out there, because the problem with the fathers, I'll tell you why. The thing with the Women's Aid and what we said, yeah, they lobby the government as one unit. So you got the main unit, you got all the subgroups that feed into the main unit, the mothership. The mothership lobbies the government. The fathers, and I'll say it straight, the fathers group, all the fathers groups, they're completely fractured. There's people making noise here, there. They're not united. And this is what I'm calling for. All the fathers groups and movement, they need to unite and lobby as one. They need to put their agendas aside, pull together, lobby as one if we're to make change in our children's lives. That's the reality. And I'm working behind the scenes. I've started a Fathers Alliance where we're getting different groups together, like the CEOs, these are intellectual people. We're getting all the CEOs of organizations together who are then, and these are intellects, so they're bankers, people from professional backgrounds who have ended up in this and they know the system. They're going to work together, hopefully now, to try and lobby government, and I'm hoping that platform grows, and if these intellects can pull it together, then we've got a chance. But as long as the movement is fractured, I think it'd be very difficult.
So when I talk to more blue-pilled guys, the common response I always hear, like, because we talk about a lot of these issues, like on my channel,
Right.
and their response is always, you guys you're picking the wrong women. Why don't you just pick the right girl?
Okay, right, no, okay. My counter argument to is this year. What is the right woman? What is the right guy? What is the wrong girl? The thing is, you understand, so the behavior in society is governed by law. If me and you say went out now, right? Yeah. Let's say we decide we had a child, for example. We've got a child, right? We've suddenly hit a rocky road. In the back of your mind, you know your backstop to any situation, negotiation. Your position is the government will back you. You will have the child, you will have the house, you'll have the finances. I can potentially be thrown out. You know that's your backstop. So we've now had an argument. We've had an argument about the colour of the paint again. I'm adamant that no, I'm not backing down. You're not backing. It's going to come to a head. But your backstop is though still, I'll have the house, I'll have the kid, I'll have the finances, and I can choose the colour of the paint. It'll be out the door. I will act accordingly because I know my backstop is I'm going to lose everything. So the behaviour, the laws in society will govern the behaviour.
Oh, so they almost incentivize the
This is what I'm
behaviour in
saying.
relationships. So that's why we always have the phrase like, she wears the pants.
Yes.
Because how could she not wear the pants when
exactly.
she has all the leverage in the situation?
Exactly.
And that's why like the men aren't going to leave because then they would lose everything where she gets everything.
Exactly. So my argument to these blue pill guys is all of these women that they're talking about, what, they were all bad. They were all bad women. They weren't bad. They were normal potential women, and the relationship went bad. It went wrong because that's life. Shit happens. But when that happens, like you said, women are more emotional, they're more hurt, more vindictive. Guess what? They've now incentivized it and said, yeah, you're right, you are a victim. He's a bastard. What? He disagreed with you. There you go. There's the blueprint.
Would you say a lot of these girls are like, are there warning signs that they're going to do this, would you say, or could it be anyone?
I honestly believe, because I speak to guys who have been sort of come from an arranged marriage, love marriage, marriages from abroad, marriages here. And the other thing you got to remember is, if in the family court, right, there is no race or religion in the family court. Every person from every background, so every man from every culture, religion and background and demographic has come up against the same attack. Now, let me tell you about, when you say good women, yeah, you talk about my community, women that wear hijabs, jilbabs, cover up, you know, they present themselves to be religious people. In the family court, they're on the front line. There are religious families, so-called religious families from my community on the front line going totally against what the religion says, because when it comes to family court, there is no religion, no race, no colour, it's all left at the door. And when you say good women, bad men, what determines it was a bad choice? Maybe it was a good choice, but shit happens. Relationships end. But when one person has the power and the leverage and they're incentivized financially, they're going to do that.
Do you think it would be the same if it was the other way around?
I think it's possible, but it's definitely, look, I'll be balanced and say this. I think it's possible, but
I don't.
Most men that I know, relationships ended. There's a logical element of, look, shit happens. Let's move on. I'll have kids my days, you'll have the kids on your days. I think, look, you're right. I agree with you, actually. I don't believe it would be, because I think most men are logical. Shit happens. Look, let me put it this way. If I was prepared to sacrifice the rest of my life and live in my prison for my kids, where else would I be prepared to do for my kids? So ultimately, I don't think you're right. I think most men are logical. I don't think most men would go down this road, because she's still the mother of your kids. Even if you split up, ultimately, this is your baby mama, so to speak, If she's okay and healthy, your child will be okay, healthy and safe. So you'd presume. On that grounds, I don't think most men would. You're right, I agree with you.
How common is this? Out of every 10 guys that gets married, how common would you just guess?
I'd say this, right, considering, look, I came from a community where marriage was strong. I never thought this would happen to me, just as many did, but it is so rife now. It has infected my community fully. This whole blueprint we've talked about, absolutely rife. I think if you're saying how common is this, I think there's going to be a day now when you say out of 10, it will be 10 out of 10 everywhere, every race, every community, every culture.
You think it's going to be 10 out of 10?
It's already rife. The Asian community, where we had that marriage family unit, when this situation happens, unfortunately, what happens is when it's, for example, so look, I can say all of this to you, right? Let's say tomorrow my sister stood up and made allegations and I said to her, yeah, but Pearl, she's legit, she's genuine. I know we don't want to press on the details, but it's that element. So what happens is, when it's your own family member, especially from my community, what happens is, it's automatically a blue pill mindset straight away. No, but she's genuine because she's my family. She's legit. It's okay to deny their children because it's one of my relatives. He's to blame. It's blame game. Hence, I believe, unless you've got sensible people around you, and my point is, when someone does this, if they don't have sensible people around them, yeah, for example, so you know the typical, a girl goes to a friend and, oh yeah, my man, he didn't do this, he ain't doing this, he ain't doing that. You've got those friends that instead of giving you sensible advice, they will stir the pot a bit more. I think add to all of that, 10 out of 10, I think is going to be rife. I think when my kids get married, that's if I'm invited, if they know me, yeah, it'll be, is this going to last 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years? You'd be lucky if you get 5 years out of it, I would say. That's the advice I'd be giving them. I think it's because of the way society is, the way the laws are. Like I said, you're rewarded for certain things.
It really, what you said about it changes the way people interact in relationships. Because that's what I was thinking. How many men really lead relationships nowadays?
They won't.
But how can they?
You can't.
It's like you're in a business deal where one person has all the power. How on earth could he lead?
The thing is look,
because that's always the other argument too I hear from blue-pilled guys. Well, if men just leaded, if men just were better leaders, this wouldn't happen.
See, again, I just think, what people don't realise is this. Look, ultimately, when they say men can lead, yeah, that's fine. What does that mean? You can lead if you're in a normal, healthy relationship, yeah. That's an automatic position that will happen. You wouldn't have to say, I'm the leader, you're the follower. It's a normal relationship. You will respect your partner, you know, in their strengths and weaknesses respectively, yeah. If you go down that road ultimately, yeah, and that power shift, this idea, men lead. So if blue pill guys are saying, what does that mean? What, you need to assert your authority, how? Knowing the backstop, we know the backstop of the law and the machine and the family court machine. We know the backstop, yeah? How do you still then lead knowing that you're going to lose forget the finances, forget the home, knowing your own flesh and blood, the children that are going to carry your name will be taken away from you? How do you lead from a back foot?
You can't.
You cannot, and this is my point. When you're dealing with...
But would you say that's the same because you say most people don't understand the laws. How... Is that the same sentiment even when most people aren't aware of this?
Yeah, look, even though I wasn't aware of this oppression, yeah, because I came from a culture where once you were married, you had children, you soldiered it out, you did what you had to, yeah. I was from that mindset, knowing that the law's still not on my side. But even then, I rolled the dice, yeah, not knowing that it was this oppressive and this tyrannical. Do you see what I'm saying? So even though I knew law wasn't on my side, the community wasn't on my side. There's, you know, it's still a bit of a taboo in some parts of the community, being divorced and separated or leaving you. Because effectively, once you end it, there's no position of we're both grown adults. This ain't working. We manage our business, deal with it. Yeah. There's an element of, again, this blue pill mindset. How could you do that to her? Think, hold on, I'm the victim as well. I'm the victim here.
It's in music too.
Yeah.
You ever if you listen to music, like if it's a guy's song that's popular, it's always like he did something to her, and like even I'm a big country fan, and that's always the same story. Like I hurt her, and he hurt me.
Yes.
It's like, so it's even in our media too. Like if you watch on TV, it's always the male abuser, never the female abuser.
It is, and it is done in such a way.
It's like subtle.
It's called conditioning, right? Yeah. So
yeah.
You're conditioned slowly to believe it. So, for example, look, I'll tell you about my case directly. I knew for 10 years my kids, they weren't really my kids. I was so conditioned that I knew they were her kids. She had the say. She had the authority. her and her family decide what happens where. There was an element of when you're sitting there and you feel like a passenger in your own children's life, yeah, that is an alarm bell. But what do you do? And when they say lead and authority, what does that look like? Especially with someone who is unpredictable. This is what people have no understanding of. And this unpredictable person has your children. You are a hostage effectively in your own life. That is what you are. So when they say lead, right, yeah, it is very difficult to lead when effectively, look, in our community, there are a lot of leaders. There are old school, traditional Indian Muslim men, right? They still live that life, yeah. There's loads of them in the family court. He's an extremist. He looks down on women. He doesn't respect women. And the women on the other side are accusing them. They're their own women from their own culture, their own religion. Have completely turned against their own religion. It says in the Muslim religion, it categorically says you cannot break a child contact with their father. It is a big no-no. When it comes to this, yeah, because of the, like you said, through the music, through the culture, this element of radical feminism, they've gone against their own. They've turned on their back on their own people and their own culture. So when you turn around and say he's extremist Muslim, Mike, and he's forcing me to wear the hijab, this, you know, like I'm talking about sisters that used to dress that way from their own family homes, yeah? They've dressed like that their whole life. They stand in court now and say, he forced me to dress like this. They were saying to the judge, she was dressed like that before I met her. So like, what are you going on about? No, he forced me. And that element of, so say, for the blue pill guys to say that, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. Unless you, the only way that can work is before you get into a relationship, and I'd advise all men, secure your assets, secure your finances, make sure you spend time with your children, recorded time with your children.
Before you get into a relationship?
No, when you're in the relationship.
Oh,
this
okay.
is during the relationship. Before you get into a relationship, protect your assets, your family assets. You have to, otherwise you lose leverage.
Yeah, hold on. So I was going to go through like what can guys do to avoid this. So before you're saying protect your family, explain that more.
Yeah, so for example, in the Asian community, a father might have multiple properties. He's put one on the son's name or put one on the other son's name. If that son gets married now and that marriage ends in divorce, that's his father's or family's assets, 50% gone or 80% they can take away. So before you get married, they need to put the financial, do not go in with your eyes closed, because a lot of youngsters that I speak to now, they're saying, I was just hoping once we get married and settle down, things will be okay. I said, what protection have you put in place? So you need to protect your financial assets, as in get multiple names on the deeds, for example, property deeds. Get framework put in place with professional accountants to ring fence the assets. Do you see what I'm saying? So they don't belong to the marriage.
Okay, so you can get an accountant to say it's yours, not the marriage.
You can put frameworks in place. I can't go into the exact ins and outs of it, yeah, but there's frameworks that you can put in place potentially to protect your assets, so they're not part of the marriage. And what I will say is, if you are to start a life with someone, and let's say your partner, so say your missus is a professional working person, make sure she pays 50-50. Because in our community, what's happened is, right, as a Muslim perspective, I'll give you, yeah.
Wait, say that again. Make sure she pays 50-50.
So as in, if you're buying a house together, no problem. If she's a professional working person like yourself, then you buy it together.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you lose, you don't just lose your 50. Do you see what I'm saying?
You buy every big asset you guys buy, pay 50-50.
Pay 50-50, because in the Asian community, there was just a man was just seen as a provider and protector and all that. You went, worked, hustled, bought a house, X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And in our community, what's happened now as well, because men are meant to provide for their missus, even if they're working, you still say give her a financial incentive as a husband, yeah. Those women from our community that don't practice religion, when it comes to finances, they only practice that bit of religion, that financially you have to do this. You don't know nothing else about the religion, but that financial bit, they're first on the table with that one, yeah. So what I'll say is don't fall for that trap. And a lot of guys, unfortunately, I think just nod along, go with it because they want to get married. So what they then do is they just, they don't take any precautions. So if you're going to buy a house, buy 50-50. If you've got family assets in your name, make sure they're removed off your name and your family's assets are protected, because then you have more leverage. If things go wrong, people are more likely to be sensible. Are you with me? When you've got all the cards on one side, you're at the mercy of one person.
So before the marriage, pay 50-50 for large assets. Does that include cars too?
Everything. I
Everything,
would say
pay 50-50.
protect yourself on everything. If it's a professional working person, I'll say, if it's someone that is not working and chooses to be the traditional sort of housewife, then fair enough, yeah. But even then, within your assets, make sure the framework is there just to protect yourself.
Okay. And during the marriage, you said?
During the marriage, make sure the time with your children is very important. Be involved in the school runs, the pickups, the drop-offs. When they go to the doctors, take time out and be with them, because when you just think that, you're in a marriage for life, I'm with this person, she's got my kids, she's got it covered, I'm going to work and hustle and do what I got to do, she's got this covered, yeah. These things will play against you. And if there's an element of she's strengthening the bond with the kids herself, and there's a classic one in our community, your dad was never here because he was working. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I thought that was a good thing personally, but your dad doesn't love you, he's never here because he was always at work. He's working to provide. They don't tell the kids that. So make sure you take time out and don't get so lost in this provider role that you miss out with time on your kids. Because there's a lot of fathers I know, they work, days and nights, shift work, days and nights and weekends. They missed out on many things in their children's lives, to be able to provide for them. So they've made that sacrifice. Mrs. has then walked out, done what she's done, and then they've lost contact and lost everything. So they've lost out on all fronts. So
yeah, because they also lost all the time, because they were the mom got the time with the kids, while he was sacrificing his time to pay, and then as a thank you, she takes the kids and his money. Yes,
and this is exactly it. So I would say take time out, have that relationship and bond with your children.
Would you say to record it too? So there's evidence, like if it ever goes south, you have evidence of it in court?
As sad as it is to do that in a marriage or relationship, I say yes, do it. I say do it, and if you suspect your missus is gonna, if you suspect your missus is gonna lay allegations on you, or you feel there's trouble, you feel the waters are troubled, something's coming, have a recording device, a small device or a camera device with recorded evidence, because, like I said, when it comes to family court, when these allegations are laid against you, they're very hard to counter. I know one chap, when all of this trouble happened in his marriage, unfortunately, she accused him of rape. There's the other one in family court as well. Men are being accused of rape and mistreating their children sexually. These sort of allegations are being placed against normal, decent blokes. Now, this father, luckily, he managed to then get in contact with Mrs. back and forth, and she admitted that she made that allegation up, which then saved him in the family court.
Because he recorded it.
If he didn't have that, how do you prove that if you don't have that? So I would say recording devices, record the time with your children, how much time you spent with your children, and make sure you have a bond with your children, so that when things go sour, that bond is what's going to carry them, keep them strong. If you spent less time there anyway because you were working, then when this alienation starts, you got no chance.
When did you see, your client, when did your client see warning signs that, how long did it, because from, again, a blue pill perspective, it's like, if this woman was a crazy narcissist, how on earth did you get into a position married with kids?
Well, my client, like I said, my community, the way we meet people, get married, is a whole structure and a framework, and it is at a time where society, culture is slightly shifting, it's in that period. So he met this person, as you do in the community, came across normal and okay, family seemed okay. He got married, as you do. He got, I would say, really unlucky in the sense that you could say it was like a semi-arranged marriage. It's a very normal thing. Now, that brings his own problems, don't get me wrong, but he's ended up there. Once he's ended up married, and my client discovered that there's something not 100%.
How long did that take?
I think he knew straight away.
Really?
He knew straight away something's not right, but in the community, there's that pressure. Once you're married and you're in a marriage, and also the thing is this, okay, we'll go deeper into this aspect of it, So like my client and many clients that I've spoken to have said, when someone is perceived as a weaker person, so don't get me wrong, when the blue pill guy said you should have been a leader, the position he had was the leader. This other position, his missus was you could say, the subordinate or the follower. She played she had that persona of softness, if you know what I mean, feminine, soft persona, like she's not the leader, But that can be very deceiving. Now, my client knew something's not 100%, yeah? But when you're dealing with a personality disorder, you're in a community where there's pressure to stay together. And sorry, the point I remembered I was trying to make is when you yourself start seeing someone as a victim, when you're in these relationships, you start feeling sorry for them. You have to understand, people don't understand the dynamics of these relationships. When you're with someone with that personality disorder, they can show you that they're the victim. The classic line, I had a hard life. My dad never loved me. I was never given attention. My brothers and sisters, I was singled out. You start, when someone keeps telling you this, that you subconsciously, you start seeing them as a victim. So you can see this issue that's there, but then you start feeling sorry for them. Then you feel guilty, and then you think, oh crap. And then when you're from this sort of community where it's divorce, separation, very taboo, very awkward, yeah? Once you're in, you're sort of in. As soon as you mention divorce, no one wants to know you. So you're sort of locked in, yeah? You don't think you have any other choice. So you carry on, yeah? Now combine that with the fact that you start seeing this person as the victim. Yeah, just like the blue pill, when we talk about, woman crying, screaming, you're in there, you're conditioned. Now imagine that conditioning over years where you subconsciously want to protect this person because they're a victim. Even though you're being coerced, you know something's not right, your children are being controlled, there's an element of, oh, I can't do that to her, where's she going to go? What's she going to do? She's a victim, she's had a hard life. She's like this because of the problem she had. But when you then look deeper and understand it objectively, everything she's told you about all this other stuff previously to meeting her, how do you know any of that's real? My dad never loved me. My dad never gave me any attention. All this sort of stuff. You start feeling sympathy. Once that seed is planted of guilt, yeah, you feel sorry for this person. That keeps you in the relationship. And every time, when you start talking about problems in the marriage, it's that whole, oh, maybe I should just end my life. The suicide card comes out. And if you got kids, even though you know this person don't mean it, you just sort of think in your head, but what if my kids are there and she does something silly? I better play ball. Let me tell you, established control in a relationship, coercive control over a man, yeah? To all the blue pill, red pill, all of them. If you have a child with a man, yeah, and you show him, you demonstrate your unpredictability around the child, as hard or as tough as that guy might be, he's going to have to toe the line because he can't be there 24/7 to look after the kid. Remember this, he has to go work or hustle or do whatever he's got to do. Remember, and people don't understand this. So when people say, oh, my woman won't do that, I won't get away with this, I'll do X, Y, and Z. They have no idea what they're talking about.
Because men want to protect the kid above all else.
Your kid.
So they're going to cater to her because she has the kid.
How you control a man, this is how this whole blue pill movement works, yeah, is if you can't control a man one-on-one in a relationship, yeah, so you're in a relationship, to get leverage over that man, yeah, to lock him in, you have a child. You're happy, you're a happy family, don't get me wrong, you're an okay-ish family. Now, once you have a child, for example, I knew this one client, yeah, they had a baby, it was around Christmas time, yeah, very cold outside, -2 degrees outside, ice all over the roads. So him and his missus had a disagreement middle of the night about something trivial, yeah. So 3, 4 in the morning, this baby's 2 weeks old, yeah, -2 outside. She grabs his baby in a blanket, jumps in the car in the pajamas, frost, cold outside, drives off. Geezer's thinking like, well, what do you do? What's going on? She'll come back in a bit. But there's a baby involved. You start getting paranoid. You start thinking, what about the kid? What if she has an accident? There's now this unpredictable paranoia. Then you think, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Hold on, maybe this is my fault. If something happens tomorrow, this will be my fault. I better not say anything. Mrs. comes back after an hour, crawls into bed, goes to sleep. And the following morning, hi babe, do you want breakfast? Like nothing's happened. He's thinking, okay, like, what does last night mean? Once you demonstrate that unpredictability, there's an element of he needs to toe the line or be very careful because you have no real understanding of what this person will do or is capable of, and you're in it, you're in this relationship. So what happens is then you toe the line, you put your head down and you carry on to protect your kids. When you end up in that sort of relationship, that is a bit different from from a normal relationship ending, a happy marriage that went sour and ended is one thing. When you're dealing with coercive control, personality disorder, and you see these guys, they come to work, their head down, they don't talk, they are broken, they are prisoners in their own life. Because when you're dealing with someone like that, who's convincing, you believe they're the victim, people around you believe they're the victim, the world believes they are the victim, you have zero chance. Combine that with this system here, you are finished.
And the sad part is too, like I always talk about on my show, that a lot of men are avoiding legal marriage, but it doesn't matter. If you have a kid, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I didn't do a legal marriage myself thinking I'd be protected in some way or other, but to a certain degree, it gives you a look, it gives you a little bit, but nothing. Once you got kids, it's nothing.
Once you have a kid, you're at her mercy, basically.
You're effectively at her mercy, and that is exactly how it is.
Wow. This is the most messed up thing I've heard. That's crazy.
Yeah, listen, we could talk for hours, right? You know what I'm saying? Especially around all of this.
Yeah, well, I'm really sorry that happened to you. That's really sad.
No, it's good. It's good it happened to me. The cameras are watching, yeah. I ain't that guy that's going to give up, crawl away and die. I am going to fight this, and I'm going to, like I said, before this all happened to me, up until 4 months ago, I've never had a Facebook account. I missed a whole decade of Facebook. I was a private guy. I've barely had a photo of myself here. Now, hopefully, I'm going to be everywhere, trying to expose this and push this, because we have a duty to our children. So whoever is watching, yeah, I ain't going away. I ain't disappearing. Can I give a shout out to my kids?
Yeah, go ahead.
Kids, I'm your dad. I love you. Sorry, that one. My bad. Kids, I'm your dad. I love you. As promised, I won't give up. I will continue to battle for as long and as hard as I can. And I'm prepared to go to any lengths and distance. And coming in the camera, nothing for me. I'm prepared to go a lot more for you guys. So I love you. I miss you. And God willing, I will see you one day soon.
How many kids?
I've got 3 kids. They're now 9, 7 and 4. I've missed 1 birthday each for each child over his last year. So yeah.
So you haven't seen them in a year and a half?
When I say it's just over a year and a bit now. And when I say not seen them, not spoken to them, nothing.
And they're a mile away.
They're just literally up the road. They are up the road, but it is soul destroying. But look, I'm just glad that I'm strong enough to just carry on and battle ultimately, because you know there's many nights where it could have gone differently. Let me put it that way. Yeah. So, but I have a duty to them. I have to try. So you know.
Well, thank you so much. I'm like tearing up.
No, look, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Honestly, I'm starstruck, and ultimately, you know.
No, thank you so much for coming. Yeah. Let me know if there's any other fathers that want to be a part of this documentary.
Yeah. I will try. Yeah, it's hard getting them out. I'd done a podcast with a father the other day. Yeah. It's very comical, yeah, because he's ballied up, he's got glasses, gloves, and he doesn't want people.
We can do something where they're not, it's just their voice.
I'll try, yeah. I'll reach out, I'll try and grab them, yeah.
Guys, make sure you go follow his YouTube channel.
Disqualified Dads on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Please follow, like, and share. It's very small, it's all very amateurish, but look, the message is getting out there.
If people want to donate, is there anything they can donate to?
Yeah, I haven't set it up yet. I'm going to get round to that, so yeah, please donate once I set it up, yeah, guys. I've not set it up yet, but yeah.
Okay, is it? Okay. Yeah, just let us know so when we release it, we can put it in.
No, thank you. I will do. I'll stay in touch, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. Guys, make sure you like the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you next time.